Hello, my name is Rick Houston, and welcome to the Scene Vault Podcast, your source for all things NASCAR history. Presented by Las Vegas Motor Speedway, America's racing showplace.
I remember looking at Jeff, I was like, what does this mean? He goes, this means we won a championship. I said, no, man, that ain't right. We were mad because we were all brothers, and we felt like we were, he was leaving, he was kind of stepping out on us. We brought those other cars in. As soon as Bobby Jr. got in one of them things, man, you want to talk about hitting the afterburners. He hit the afterburners. It was on then. And that Bobby Jr. was a gas masher. Man.
The day NASCAR and all of us associated in any way with NASCAR forget its past, that's the day we don't have any future.
People thinking that you were doing something, was that an advantage?
Absolutely. Yeah, they were beat getting there. Yep. But it wasn't that. It was the filling in the gaps that I was telling you about.
Right.
When we used to sit down, if we wasn't, like I say, if we were getting beat in any area, if it was, average race laps in practice, so-and-so, we went back and detailed every single little thing to get our system to where it was. And so also at that time, you had so much time in practice. Well, I started averaging up how many runs everybody was getting. This guy gets, and I'll tell you something else, Kawicki, another thing that came from Kawicki. So most of the time in an hour practice, guys would get 6 runs in, And Alan Kawicki told me one time, he said, the run you didn't get in practice is the run that lost the race for you. Well, that clicked in my head. He said, if you don't leave that practice and exhaust everything in your mind, he said, if you can't get it done, you're beat. So that was always in my mind. So I went back and sat down with Dan, and I was like, all right, look, man, we're getting 6 runs. Everybody's getting 6 runs. I said, I want 12.
Wow.
He said, how you want to do that? I said, you play football, didn't you? He said, yeah. I said, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to figure out how long it takes to change the left front spring, how long it takes to change the right front spring, how long it takes to change a gear, and we're going to put a time limit on, and these guys are going to practice. And he said, all right. I said, so let's figure out a happy hour practice, how long the lap time takes, and we figured it all the way down to where you had like 4 minutes to change the left front spring, you had 2 minutes to change a sway bar, I gave them 8 minutes to change a gear. From the time that it came in, the jack hit the stop to where the tires were back on the ground, it was going out, you had 8 minutes. And that turned into where we was getting 12 to 13 runs in a practice, and everybody else was getting 6. So when I went back that night and pulled all my notes out and got ready to build my race setup for the next day, I had twice the information to pull from as everybody else.
Wow.
And that was part of what did it.
At what point did you allow yourself to think that the championship was actually going to happen?
I never did. Even after we won the championship, and we was riding around in the back of that truck in Memphis, I remember looking at Jeff, I was like, what does this mean? He goes, this means we won a championship. I said, no, man, that ain't right. And I couldn't do that. So as we was riding around, Marcy Scott,
yeah,
wonderful. I mean, she was such a great part of our team. But Marcy goes, all right, I know what you're thinking, Harold. I said, all right, what am I thinking? She goes, what record's next? I said, okay, yeah, I am. She goes, all right, well, this is how many top 5s in a season that's ever been done, this and that, and so. I said, where are we at? She said, you got to have 3 more top 5s to beat it. I'm like, it's on. So I think we ended up doing that. I think we had to have 3 more top 5s to have the most top 5s ever in a season. And the claw, like, second was the first loser to us, and that was just the mentality we had. Unfortunately, I still carry that today, and it runs a lot of people off around you.
So you go into the off season, you're the champion. 2001, everything happens at Daytona with Dale and everything. And Jeff wound up running several Cup races the following season for Richard Childress. Was that something you were on board with, or would you have preferred for him to stay put?
Stay put. It made us mad for a while. And we were being a little selfish with it, but we were a wolf pack.
Yeah,
we were tight, man. You couldn't drive a flat blade screwdriver in between us, and Jeff was, he was performing so well where it was, it was inevitable that it was going to happen. And then after a while, we finally came to the understanding of, hey, man, this is an opportunity for him, and this, we all supported him. And it kind of interfered some for a while because we were mad, but we were mad because we were all brothers, and we felt like we were, he was leaving, he was kind of stepping out on us, but after a while we understood it, and then we started gelling again, and everything was fine. But we also switched to Ford, and that was another huge aero transition to where we got off for the first 3 or 4 or 5 races, and it took us a little while to get a handle on it. And then once we got a handle on it, then, I forgot who beat us for the championship that year, but it wasn't by much. But we lost it in the first 4 or 5 races from that transition to Chevrolet to Ford. That was where we lost it because kind of lost the handle on our package.
Well, that brings up a good question. You had been so good with Chevrolet. It was a Chevy, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You've been so good and so dominant. Why make such a drastic change? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I agree. I agree. Well, that was a business call that was above our head. So, I think Ford came in with better opportunities for Greg and backing for the team, and they offered him some things that Chevrolet didn't offer at the time, and I think that was part of his decision to make that. And Mark Martin was still the mark, so we felt like if we had what Mark Martin had, Jeff and I was like, well, if we got what he's got, like, if we can't beat him, we need to look at ourselves. And that was how we convinced ourselves that move was okay. But and it ended up being okay. We built a great relationship with Ford, met some fantastic people. I mean, some of their aero guys and stuff, and they really did do what they said they was going to do. Like, they gave us a cut budget from wind tunnel time, and they were great to us.
How'd you wind up leaving PPC?
Scott Riggs came, and there was just, it started after Jeff left. Jeff and I understood each other so well, and Scott required something so much different. And I love Scott and still do. We still talk today, but he was just such a different driver than what Jeff was, and our whole team was built around what Jeff, the way he drove, and it was a tough transition for me. I didn't dislike working with Scott. We won pretty quick together. So there were some other changes that came in, Honestly, there was a guy that was trying to bring some more corporate style attitude, and we were hardcore racers.
Yeah.
And I did not like that at all. So me and him butted heads quite a bit. So eventually I just had enough, and I was like, you know what, it's time for me to go.
So you did wind up moving over to Ed and Sam Renzi's team to work with Bobby Hamilton Jr. a few races into the 2003 season. And results-wise, it was like you guys hit the afterburners. I mean, you evidently came in and turned on the light switch. What kind of changes did you make?
Well, Mr. Amick, I was really close with Mr. Amick, and he was a great man, somebody I really, believed in. I used to talk to him about personal stuff, everything. Mr. Amick was a good Christian man, So Mr. Amick had an engine company at the time, and he got tired of people saying this engine's good, this engine's bad. He's like, Harold, this is what I want you to do. He said, I want you to come in and build me some cars, and I want you to take them to the racetrack, and if I got a customer that says his engine ain't no good, he said, I want you to pull the motor out of your car and put it in his car and take his motor and put it in your car. He said, I want to show him it ain't my engines, it's different. I said, yes, sir. So that's what we did. And he proved himself right. So after that transition, Lyndon decided at the time, Lyndon decided to go in the Army. Lyndon kept talking to me about the Army, kept on and on. So Lyndon decided to go in the Army, and whenever he did, Mr. Amick didn't want me to go anywhere, but it was like I was going to be hobby racing, some Trans Am stuff, and I couldn't do that. And Bobby Hamilton Jr. and them approached me. So whenever I went there, Mr. Amick let us take those two cars that I had built for Mr. Amick. And they were Chevrolets, but Will Jones was hanging my bodies at the time. And so we carried those over there, and it took me about 2 weeks to get the first one together. And we went to Dover with one of their older cars, and we ended up finishing sixth. But it was, we were in jeopardy of getting lapped, and I short pitted, and it worked out, and we ended up finishing sixth. But those cars they just weren't where they needed to be. And they weren't very good at all, to be honest with you. And we brought those other cars in. As soon as Bobby Jr. got in one of them things, man, you want to talk about hitting the afterburners. He hit the afterburners. It was on then. And that Bobby Jr. was a gas masher. Man.
Going into that last race of the season, 2003, there were 6 drivers in contention for the championship. Bobby said he was already counting his title money.
Yeah.
He already had picked out what he was going to buy with it.
Yeah.
What was your outlook?
Different than that. I stay in the fight until the fight's over. And then whenever it's over and I'm far clear of it and I can look back and go, hey, we won that, then that's kind of the way I handle it. But I don't ever take it for granted, because complacency is the crack rock of racing. The minute you get complacent is the minute that you lose your teeth. Somebody kick your teeth right in. You can never be complacent.
Bobby left the team midway through the following season to go cup racing with Cal Wells, and then you joined him shortly thereafter. How did all that go down?
It started out well. We went to Daytona, and that wasn't a very good time, but we were like 50 horsepower down, so it was a miserable time. But then we went to California and ran 10th or 11th, and we were like 11th in points up till we got to Bristol. Well, we had 74 people, I think, at that time. We got to Bristol, and we were running in the top 10, 8th or 7th or somewhere around in
Now,
there.
you talking about with Cal?
With Cal.
Okay.
And we got in a wreck. Well, that was one of the new cars that we had built up, and it was the same thing. When we went to Cal, he had a fleet of cars that he thought was, where they had evolved to. Them things were 200 pounds heavier than the chassis that we were building, that I was building at the time. They were 200 pounds heavier. The aero was completely different, this and that. So Cal let us build a fleet of cars, 4 cars, like Bobby and I wanted to run. And make a long story short, we had 74 people, and as we got going, and then we established ourselves in the top 15 in points, and they had just come out of being 40th in points or something, But once we established ourselves in the top 15, next thing I know, I come in the shop one day and we got 34 people. Well, then we wrecked the next 4 weeks, and when we wrecked, we couldn't get the cars back together. So then we started having to run that old stuff. And Bobby's a pit bull. I'm a pit bull. We weren't running where we wanted to run. I couldn't make happen for him what I needed to make happen for him. And we were just, we were like 2 mad, rabid pit bulls after on the same bone. And it got to a point where I was like, man, I can't. My hands are tied. I can't do anything. And Joe Custer talked to me from Haas, and then I left and went there.
Now, where did everybody go? Was it just your mentality that kind of scared everybody off, or where did everybody go?
From
you said you started out with 74, and then you came in one day and there was 34.
Oh no, it wasn't that. It was there were some of those guys that would hire a lot of people to get the race team established, mm-hmm. and then once it got established, then they would lose half of them.
Okay.
And that's kind of what happened.
Okay. All right.
I think it was a budgetary thing.
Okay.
But either way, we couldn't, we didn't have enough manpower to get the cars back together, and that made Bobby and I miserable because he for sure didn't want to run bad, and I didn't. That was killing us. It was eating us from the inside out.
You and Jeff got the opportunity to work together again at the Cup level in 2007. What was that experience like?
Peaks and valleys. Haas at that time wasn't where it needed to be as a company. By no means were we the greatest crew chief and driver or whatever, but we didn't have what we needed to be there. With what we was getting Hendrick motors and Hendrick chassis, but I hate to say it, but that wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Not at that level. So the first race that Jeff and I worked together, we finished 7th at Martinsville, 6th or 7th. Well, that was cool, but when we got to these other places, we was 1.5 miles. The aero, the whole 9 yards. Like, I couldn't put the bodies on like I needed to. I couldn't do what I needed to do. But then whenever we'd get to a racetrack to where that it wasn't so important, we'd run good again. And, so that's a tough thing too, because Jeff's a winner, wants to win. I've been fortunate enough to win some races and want to win. And when you're out there beating your head against the wall and you just can't do what you need to do or what you feel like you can do because your hands are somewhat tied, and that'll eat you. Like, somebody might as well be pouring acid on my head. So that part was tough. Now, when we switched to the COT car, I was all for it. And part of the reason.
Were you really?
Oh, well, yes, and I'll tell you why. I was all for it because NASCAR was headed this direction. Well, the managers at Haas wouldn't let us work on the Coy car yesterday. They wouldn't let us put new bodies on. They wouldn't let us do this. They wouldn't let us do that because we were going to change to this. But we were getting our teeth kicked in right now.
Yeah.
You know, and so you know, going along with Hendrick and testing and working with the you know, car tomorrow, I was all for it because we were getting something new. Now, after I seen how they was going to regulate it and the way it was direction, I wasn't for it at all.
Be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, be careful what you ask for. But out of those 10 races that we ran with that car, I think we had 8 top 10s, 2 wrecks. But as soon as we had equipment that was up to par, we ran in the top 10 every week.
Yeah.
You know, and so that whole experience was not, you know, it was peaks and valleys, you know.
So you mentioned the car tomorrow and all the regulations that went with it. Was there a specific point where you felt the box that you were being put into starting to shrink when it came to your creativity and what you could do on a car, or was it a more gradual process?
No, it was that COT car.
Was it really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when those regulations started coming in, and I seen how they were going to police it, and then they came in with a grid, and you know, all the magic that I'd worked over the years of twisting templates and doing this and doing that, and to me that was part of the story of racing.
Yeah.
And then when they came in where they want to put you in taxi cabs where, you know, everything was the same, to me that was like, I was just not interested at all. Like my fire flicker started flickering really hard at that point. I started looking for other ways to do things.
You won 3 ARCA races with Corey LaJoie driving and Randy as the car owner. What were you thinking going to work for Randy LaJoie as your boss? I can't even imagine that.
Man, he's such a great guy.
Yeah.
And you know, he's such an experienced and smart racer. You sit down and talk with him, and like, man, he's knowledgeable, like big time. But I thought, oh boy, this is getting ready to be a ride. Yeah, I tell you, man, Corey's awesome. Yeah. He's a great race car driver. I wished it would have worked out to where he and I could have ended up doing something together at the Cup level, because I really feel like that we had something that could click.
You haven't worked at any of NASCAR's top 3 national levels in several years. Was that a conscious decision on your part?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm done. So that was a decision that you made.
Yeah.
Was there a specific point where you made that? Was there a final straw, so to speak?
Yeah. I got to when I started working with the Coulters, Joey Coulter, that was a new inspiration for me, because he was a young guy that didn't have a lot of experience, and I somewhat was able to, you know, I took a little bit of my crew chief hat off and put my coaching hat on, and that was a good time. And when Joey and I went to we ARCA raced, we ended up winning some races, and then we had an opportunity at RCR. Well, I'd tried to go to work at RCR once before, and it didn't work out. It worked out for about 6 hours, and I went back out the door. But when I got up there the second time and we got going with that truck deal, you know, I realized, I was like, man, I miss this. I missed this, and working for Richard was such an honor. I mean, I have so much respect for that man, and he is so great to work for. Mike Dillon was great to me. I mean, that place was really, really, that's one of the best jobs I ever had, was working at RCR.
On the truck side?
On the truck side,
really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, you opened the door, so I got to walk in. You had gone to RCR once before?
Yeah.
What happened? When was it?
It's when I left PPC.
Okay.
Green was up there, and he was, it wasn't clicking for them the way that it needed to click. And Richard had called me and wanted me to come up there and put Jeff and I back together. And I went up there and had the job. Never had officially went to work, but I had a job, so I went up there and I went through the place, and I seen some of the stuff that was going on, and Todd walked me through the shop. And
Barrier.
Yep.
Okay. And
I always had a ton of respect for Todd, still do. But Todd had walked me through the shop, and I said, well, what about this, whatever, steering box? I said, Green ain't going to never, he's not going to drive, he's never going to get a feel for a car with it. He goes, oh, well, you can't change that because we got to deal with this. And, there was probably 8 or 9, 10, half a dozen things that I went through there and picked out that basically told that I couldn't change. I was going to have to make it work. And I was like, all right, I better go see Richard. So I went up and seen him, and Richard said, what do you think? I said, Mr. Richard, there's a lot of things you got going on here. I said, you got a great facility, huge place. You got a lot of things, but there's some things that I can't fix for you. I said, until I can turn the apple cart upside down a little bit, there's some things I can't fix for you. He goes, well, what do you think I need? I said, until that the internal gets changed and a lot of these things get changed, I said, the best thing I can do is tell you to hire a sports psychologist. He said, what? I said, yeah. I said, you're going to have to get somebody to communicate with Green because I can't fix what you got going on. And I said, I'm going to fail if I come up here, and I don't want to fail.
So you're talking about like parts and pieces. They had deals with different companies, and you had to run that particular part. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Wow.
And there was just the combination of parts and pieces at the time was not. It was stuff that I knew that I couldn't make work.
Now, you are racing dirt now.
Yes, sir.
And you were telling me before that your schedule is crazy.
Yeah. This year's not been so bad. But 2015, I decided that was it for me. I went to RCR, Kyle Busch, and then when Maury Gallagher got GMS going, he kind of hired me as a director of competition there to help him get it going. And then once that I got it to a point and saw where he was, he was wanting to get a whole lot bigger than I wanted to be involved in.
Yeah.
But I stayed with him long enough to help him get what he needed to start getting going. And then after that, I took off and went dirt racing. But yeah, it's dirt racing will humble you in a hurry.
How so?
You can be at the same racetrack. If you stay at the same racetrack 3 nights, one night you're a hero. The next night you liable to get off the tee box a 1/16 of an inch wrong, and you're in a B main trying to get in the show. Because it's so competitive at that super level, so competitive. And those guys are so good. Brandon Overton, Jonathan Davenport, all those guys, they're so damn good where you just can't imagine how, they're just masters of what they do. And if you miss it this much, one night you're sitting there getting your picture took in Victory Lane, the next night you're standing on a tailgate watching them.
Do you enjoy that, or is it still pressure?
It's still pressure. But I enjoy it. Yeah. I'm getting to the age now to where that the maintenance it takes to work on them things is getting a little past me. 56 years old, but I've been running hard racing for 35 years, you know. But the maintenance side of it, I don't really care about. Like, it's just a bunch of hard work. The winning part's fun, but the maintenance side's tough.
56 years old is not old. Thank you very much.
Well, if you've been rode hard and put up wet as many times as I have, it's not actually the age, it's the miles.
All right, man. Is there anything else you'd like to get across? Anything in particular? Any other good well, I know I've missed some good stories, but
no, I just everybody that I've been associated with, Chad Little, Jeff Green, Bobby Hamilton Jr., Mike McLaughlin, Johnny Sauter, all these people that Joey Coulter. I've been with them now going on 14 years. The Coulters have been wonderful for me, and had a great opportunity to win. Joey and I have we won at ARCA, we won at trucks, we won at asphalt late models, dirt late models, crate late models, and now we've got into modified racing, and Joey and I have won a modified race. So I really got to thank Joey Coulter a lot, because they've given me a great opportunity, and him and his family and the Coulters have took good care of Pam and I, and it's been a really cool ride with Joey, because we've won at everything that we've touched. Like, every series that we've been in, we won. I'm trying to talk him into getting us a big old cigarette boat where we could race from like Miami to, over the Caribbean and back or something. Yeah. I said, it takes 4 people, man, so me, you, your dad, we can get somebody else in there, and let's get off the asphalt. But I just want to thank all those people that I've been able to meet over the years, and guys that have been with me and stuff like that. And NASCAR, because for a kid like me, it was an opportunity to give me some roads in life that nothing else would ever gave me if it hadn't happened.